Question: what did Moses really think about God? Moshe probably did not think about God the way almost anyone today imagines God. Not the bearded sky king, not the philosophical perfect being, and not the later rabbinic abstraction either. What he experienced and what the Torah actually presents is closer to encountering a willful, active presence that intrudes into reality. Now let's see why scholars across Jewish, academic, and even some Christian traditions quietly agree on pieces of this. The very first clue comes from the name. When Moshe asks at the burning bush, "When they ask me his name, what shall I say?" Hashem does not answer with a noun. He answers, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, almost always mistranslated as, I am that I am. That's not Jewish. That's Greek philosophy sneaking in later, much later. In Hebrew grammar, it actually means, I will be what I will be, or I will become what I choose to become. That isn't a static being. That also isn't Aristotle's prime mover. That is not a defined object. Moshe is basically being told, you are not getting a definition. You are getting a relationship. In other words, Moshe did not learn what God is. He learned God cannot be contained inside a category. Moshe never actually physically sees God, and that's the point. Here's the strange part many people read but don't notice. Moshe hears a voice, sees fire, experiences cloud, encounters presence, and receives communication. But when Moshe asks directly to show me your glory, Hashem replies with, no human can see me and live. Then the text does something extremely weird. God hides Moshe in a rock crevice and lets him see only the after effect, my back. This is not physical anatomy. The Hebrew, akorai, means the trace left after the encounter. Translation: Moshe never perceives Hashem directly. He perceives effects of divine will in history. This becomes the core of biblical theology. God is known through what happens, not through what he looks like. Moshe did argue with the creator of all that is, constantly. This is actually the biggest evidence of how Moshe understood him. Moshe argues after the golden calf incident, challenges the plan to destroy Israel, negotiates punishments, refuses leadership multiple times, and even says, erase me from your book. You do not argue with a philosophical absolute. You argue with a person you believe cares and listens. And there is one thing I want to make perfectly clear. Moshe clearly did not think God was a blind force of nature. He experienced a responsive will, one that could react, reconsider, enter covenant. In the Torah, covenant is everything. Not the kind of covenant that just rests on believe in me, but one that says walk with me. When it comes to knowing what Moshe thought about God, we have to always keep in mind that he wasn't teaching theology, he was teaching reality. Modern religion asks, what do you believe about God? The Torah asks a totally different question. How do you live if God is real? That's why Sinai is law, not a creed. No statement like, I believe in God. Instead, don't exploit the weak, free slaves, rest workers, honest courts, and protect strangers. For Moshe, Hashem wasn't an idea to be proven. God is the reason ethics mattered. Without him, morality is opinion. With him, morality is structure of reality. The biggest overlooked verse as it pertains to this is found in Devarim, Deuteronomy 4:35. You were shown to know that Hashem is God, there is nothing else besides him. The Hebrew ein od milvado, not no other gods. It literally means there is no other reality apart from him. Moshe's understanding wasn't polytheism, monotheism, or philosophy. It's closer to this. God is not a being inside the universe. The universe exists inside God's will. That's why idolatry is such a big deal in the Torah. Not because statues are naughty, but because they reduce ultimate reality to an object. So what did Moshe really think? Well, putting all the textual clues together, Moshe did not think God was a human-like king in the sky, not a metaphor or a force of nature like gravity, nor a philosophical abstraction. Moshe experienced God as an intentional, communicating, morally demanding presence that enters history and forms a covenant with human beings, not provable in a lab, not dismissible as imagination inside the narrative. He wasn't saying, here is my theory about God. He was saying history itself is interacting with a will. And that's actually why the Torah is written the way it is, not as a theology textbook, but as a record of encounters. And here's the wild part. Later Jewish philosophers, especially Maimonides, tried to turn Moshe's God into pure metaphysics. Modern skeptics turn him into mythology. But the Torah itself presents something much stranger. Moshe didn't discover or create a religion. Moshe believed he was reporting an encounter, and everything everything else that came from that encounter, the law, nationhood, and eternal covenant with the Jewish people, flows from that. Thank you for watching or reading. Please like, subscribe, and share with others. Until next time, this is Shmuel ben Shlomi of Shmu's Views wishing you shalom.